Oh, yeah. Five-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the back.
T.A. We are live back here in the Tigers Avenue show. Welcome in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your holidays. Zach and I sure did. Lots and lots has unfolded over the holidays.
Sure
As
has.
you all know, Zach and I are both youth pastors, and we had a big youth event that we both went to as well, literally sandwiched between Christmas and New Year's.
Yep.
We did a big youth event. It was a lot of fun. So had a real busy holiday schedule, but we're glad to be back in here. Zach, I know this is not on our list whatsoever, but I saw it today and I've just been itching for it. We're 39 days away from first pitch.
Yes.
Perfect game. Explain this to me, Zach. Perfect Game releases their top 25 and has Texas A&M at number 1. Please explain to me how a new year one coach is number 1 over Jay Johnson and this LSU team. I don't know. I know they have a really good roster, but year one under a new coach.
Yeah, might be a little early.
I don't see it. I mean, they may be really talented, and I'm sure they are. It's Texas A&M. But saw that today, and man, I'm just so ready for baseball. It's so close. This period right here, right after we get done with like the New Year's and get back into the swing of everything, I'm like, oh my gosh, baseball cannot get here soon enough. Really, really looking forward to LSU baseball. And it will be here very quickly. And obviously, Zach, we're going to discuss kind of our thoughts on the baseball team heading into the preseason. Maybe we may give you our starting 9, a pitching rotation, something like that, expectations, predictions, all those fun things that we love to do here in the Tigers Avenue. But things we also love in the Tigers Avenue, Zach, is the transfer portal as of late. Because, buddy, I mean, as of right now, okay, 247, I trust On3 a lot. Okay, I do. I trust On3 a lot. 247's got it right, though. On3, they have this stupid, they calculate who left, who came in, and then they rank it based off that. That's stupid, okay? 247 does it based only on what you're bringing in. Really, in my opinion, the only hit LSU, major hits that LSU had to the portal was C.J. Daniels and maybe Deshaun Womack. Maybe, right?
We'll see how those turn out.
We'll see how it pans out. I hope the best for all of them. But in reality, you look at all the other transfers that left, and you think, yeah, makes sense, right? Yeah. Makes sense. So 247 has us as the number 1 team in the transfer portal. And you know what I really, really love? Zach, you know what I really, 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 really love?
What do you really love, Reagan?
You are not number 1 just because of the quantity of players that you have. You are number 1 because of the quality of players that LSU has brought in to this transfer portal. As it stands right now, LSU is number one in the transfer portal rankings, they have less commits than the second-ranked Texas Tech Raiders, third-ranked Ole Miss Rebels, fourth-ranked Auburn Tigers, fifth-ranked Florida State Seminoles. So the rest of the top 5, according transfer portal rankings, you have the least amount of commits from the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Yet, your transfer portal rating is higher than all the others. You have 14. Texas Tech has 17. Ole Miss 15. Auburn 15. Florida State 16. You have the least in the top 5. What does that tell you? You got some really stinking good players. You got quality more than you do quantity. And you did get quantity. You needed some quantity. But you added quality as well. And Zach, we've already discussed Nick Anderson and Marion Brown, Mansour Delane, Jack Pyburn, some of those. But there's been some big ones. There's been some big ones that have popped since we have last met. Number one, well, I don't want to say number one. First, I'll kind of do it in I'll just say Josh Thompson, right, from Northwestern, offensive lineman. We talked about needing to shore up things, right? You have the weapons. You got Garrett Nussmeier back. Okay. You got a really good running back room, right? Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson. You're bringing in Harlem Berry, the number 1 running back in the nation.
JT Lindsey.
JT Lindsey, who's right behind him, number 2 in Louisiana, behind Harlem Berry.
And you got Jawan Johnson that's doing some stuff.
That's correct. And JT Lindsey, by the way, is also a top 10 running back in the country. So there's that as well. You have a great running back room coming back, right? Okay, well, we got to add some receivers because you're losing Kyron Lacey. You lost C.J. Daniels. You lost Mason Taylor. We need some weapons. Well, how about Nick Anderson, Barry and Brown, golly, I'm drawing a blank, Bauer Sharp, Destin Hill, right? These big name receivers that you went out and shored up your receiving room. And let's not forget you also return Aaron Anderson. So you have a really, really, really awesome offense. And you're looking at it, you're going, wow, this is amazing. However, you're losing 4 starters on the offensive line that have played together for 3 straight years. That's a big overhaul. You're losing, a surefire top 10 pick in Will Campbell. You're losing Emory Jones, who could definitely be a round 1, early round 2 pick. You're losing Miles Frazier, who's very underrated, who was your best pass blocker, according to Pro Football Focus this year, Miles Frazier. Garrett Dellinger, you saw the difference in your offensive line when Garrett Dellinger went down for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the impact that he made. They were solid as it gets. They had continuity, all of these things. And it's an overhaul to replace all that. So you look back and you go, man, this offense looks really good.
Yeah.
But you can't do much with it, Zach, if you can't block. So you're going, okay, well, you got DJ Chester back. You got Tyree Adams, who they're real high on. You got Weston Davis, they're high on.
Papa Bega played a lot.
You got some experience.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going, okay, maybe it can work. Well, if you want to make a championship run, you don't go, well, maybe these guys can work. You go, okay, let's go get guys who can help us out immediately. And they did that. Josh Thompson is one of those guys. Top 5 offensive lineman in the transfer portal. They got him. He's a tackle. He could play opposite side of Tyree Adams. You brought in Braylon Moore, who will be your surefire day 1 starter at center. He is going to be your starting center, 2-year starter at Virginia Tech, one of the top offensive linemen, the top center of the portal in Braylon Moore, veteran player. And now you can look at DJ Chester and say, hey, you're probably a little bit better at guard than you probably are at center. That's probably his more natural position. You move DJ Chester out. You add a guy like Josh Thompson to the tackle position, Tyree Adams, and then you plug in whoever you want else at the guard position. Maybe it's Paul Mabinga because he played a bunch. Maybe it's somebody else. Who knows? And maybe they're looking at some more offensive linemen. Maybe they really, really want to shore this thing up. And so when you add Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson, you're thinking, okay, man, this offense is complete. This offense is a very, very high-level competitive offense. It's a championship-looking offense, Zach. Those two additions on the offensive line is what you were talking about. You wanted that last episode. You were knocking on that door, and we got it. And they may not be done. They may not be done. Zach, then you flip the page. You flip the page to the defensive side of the ball. And you landed the biggest name. You landed the biggest name. We thought it was going to be Nick Anderson. But, buddy, they went even better. You needed edge rushers. You're losing Braden Swinson. You're losing Savion Jones. You got some young freshmen who are talented, maybe need a little bit more reps. You're losing Deshaun Womack, right? But we need guys who are going to impact the game now. Now, while these other young guys still keep developing for the next year. Okay, who can we get? Well, you already got Butler, right, from Nebraska. You got Pyburn from Florida. Well, how about the number one defensive player in the transfer portal? How about that for your edge rusher in Patrick Payton from Florida State, the number 2 ranked player in the entire portal, any position, Patrick Payton, to solidify the dominance of this transfer portal run. The addition of Patrick Payton was absolutely massive, Zach. It was huge. And that defensive front is looking really, really scary. And then you think about they also added Sadir Mitchell, right, from Texas.
Yep.
Not highly rated, but certainly has the body and the build, looking for some more reps, adding some depth, right, behind Jacobian and Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley, really adding that good piece of depth, big run-stuffing type of build for Sadir Mitchell. You just look at this portal class, Zach, and it has everything you want. It has everything you want except one thing.
Safety.
One thing. Zach, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, what's the scuttlebutt lately? Okay, I've kind of covered what we have. I want to hear from you about what may be on the horizon. We've seen a couple things, a couple visits. They may not be done with the offensive side of the ball. They may not be done with some of the other things on the defense. What are some of the latest things you've seen and been hearing and reading on maybe some more additions to this portal class?
Yeah, well, I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of as far as hearing potential guys that are, currently in the transfer portal that could come to LSU and that could play at safety. I know Tamarcus Cooley is a defensive back that has played a ton transferring. He's at NC State right now. I know he played at Maryland also. So, and he's visiting some SEC schools like Ole Miss and Kentucky and Missouri. So there's definitely he's definitely highly sought as far as SEC schools going after him. So that's one guy that you could potentially be looking at. But honestly, Reagan, what a lot of people are hearing is that potentially you have a silent commit from a player that is still playing in the college football playoff. So, if that is that legit or not, I don't know. That's, obviously what's kind of going around as far as, potential safeties that you get in this
Yeah.
transfer portal class. But to be honest with you, Reagan, it's been real quiet. I know also today it wasn't a safety, but we also saw today, the tight end from Texas A&M,
Yep.
Donovan Green, seems like he's interested in LSU. He's going to be set to visit LSU here soon. So, is that another tight end? And I think, honestly, I'm okay with that because I think it would be good for LSU to probably add another true tight end. We know that Trez Green is not your traditional tight end. So they bring in Bauer Sharp. Sharp, more of a traditional tight end. He's played a lot there. Trez Green just feels like more of a big body wide receiver that is a physical threat in the red zone.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he was extremely impressive in the bowl game, right? And that's something.
How about the day he had, man?
Yeah, and that's obviously the bowl game, he shined. So I think it could be interesting to see, if LSU maybe potentially lands another tight end. Maybe it's Donovan Green. I don't know, but I'm not totally against that. Obviously, where everybody wants to see players start coming in through this portal is at safety. And for me, as you know, Reagan, I mentioned on the last podcast, I think, or maybe 2 podcasts ago, that my biggest thing that I wanted to see LSU go after was offensive line. Obviously, you got Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson, which you already addressed that. But there's also rumors that maybe LSU has a silent commit from another player that is still playing in the college football playoff on offensive line. So I don't know necessarily, Reagan, that we're going to really see a whole lot coming out as far as, potential players that are currently in the transfer portal that could go to the Tigers. That could change, but it seems like LSU is kind of holding their ground right now until, the rest of the teams can finish the college football playoff. And then obviously, players are allowed 5 days after, they're allowed an extra 5 days to enter the transfer portal after their team finishes their season. So, we very easily could see, some things change and some new names entering here in this month, and especially near the end of the month as the college football playoff national championship wraps up on January the 20th. So, 5 days after that, January 25th, after that, you've got all your teams have completed the season. All the players that could potentially enter the portal this cycle will have entered the portal. So I still think LSU fans need to be a little bit patient as far as waiting on potential safety, maybe more additions on the offensive line until the end of the month. We're going to have to just hold tight here for the end of the month to see if the scuttlebutt, the rumors are true about the maybe silent commitments that LSU has with teams that are still in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean what a crazy thought. I mean, that is just, it blows my mind that's where we're at today.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if it benefits LSU, it benefits LSU. I'm all here for it.
Yeah.
But that just blows my mind. It blows my mind. They, supposedly there's like a kind of a loophole. It's not tampering, but it feels like tampering, Zach. It really does. These like third party representation discusses with the school, and
that's the day and age we're living in right now.
This is the day we're in, man. It's just it's crazy to me that's where it's at, and I'm sure it's happened to LSU players. I'm sure players have left LSU because of the same reason. You think of Lance Hurd last year.
Yep. Exact same reason.
And so it's just weird. But I mean, you either got to get with the times or get left behind, right? It's just,
that's a good way of putting it.
I mean, it's going to change though quickly come this summer, right? I think these things may still happen. Third party representation, discussing with other schools, things of that nature.
Still got the spring window as well, where all that can go on and happen.
That's right.
Between that time.
But maybe it gets limited some when revenue share hits in the summer. And this is my own personal opinion. I'm all for NIL. I really am. But man, for this off season, this recruiting season and going into this off season, you're like, it's genuinely like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Like anything goes. And it feels like the NCAA is just like allowing anything. More eligibility, more whatever, like Diego Pavia and things like that. I'm like, how do we just ignore the years of football that they played?
Well, Reagan, and that's a good point that you bring up, because one of the other guys that LSU is looking at as far as defensive backs goes is Keontae Scott, and he is one of those guys that is technically would technically be out of eligibility, right, coming out of Auburn, but because of his years in JUCO, and he's played 3 years, I believe. So he played 2 years JUCO, 3 years at Auburn, right? And now because of that rule, he has an extra year that he can play. And so that's another target that LSU is looking at in defensive back Keontae Scott out of Auburn, who's also set to visit. So yeah, it's crazy, Reagan. As you mentioned, it's a wild, wild west, and but it's beneficial, right? If it's beneficial to LSU, I'm for it, right?
Sure.
And if it can help your team out, then you should be happy for it. You shouldn't be upset and all up in arms, because it happens to somebody else, right? I'm sure we could be all up in arms and upset. I'm sure a lot of teams are all up in arms and upset as far as the SEC goes, because Diego Pavia, you have to deal with him again another year. But as far as LSU goes, what if you get Keontae Scott and he adds some more depth, and maybe an impact guy that you could have there in the backfield for you on the defensive side of the ball. So it's a give and a take, I guess you could say, right?
Oh yeah, there's no question.
You hate to give up the fact that Diego Pavia is coming back. LSU obviously is going to travel to Nashville next year and have to deal with him, as LSU will face Vanderbilt next year in Nashville. But if it helps us out, in that we get Keontae Scott, then I'm for it, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, it's happening to everybody. All these things, there's not one team that's, only getting and not being taken from this, right? Every team, it's give and take, every single one of them. So it is what it is. It really is. So, but man, this transfer portal class it's stellar. It is absolutely stellar. Brian Kelly,
the portal king,
said that the portal king, said that he was going to be aggressive in the portal, and buddy, he's backed it up.
Yep.
It has been far more. I will be honest. When he said we're going to be aggressive in the portal, I wanted him to be aggressive. This is beyond my expectation of what I thought was aggressive.
Yeah.
And man, he backed it up. He put his own money out there. There's other donors putting their money out there, right?
Yeah.
As it sits right now, we know every dollar donated is $3 because of Brian Kelly and that anonymous donor.
Yeah.
I mean, they stepped it up. Everybody did. And I'm proud of LSU fans. I'm proud of Brian Kelly. I really am. I think it is awesome. This portal class makes you think, man, there's real hope for next season, especially with a 12-team playoff. You're looking at this and you're going, yeah, this is a top 12 team. It certainly needs to be. And Zach, another thing I want to address with Brian Kelly, by the way, and I've said this before, and I want to say it again in the midst of what is transpiring right now in the playoffs. Um, whenever a coach leaves a place and goes to another school, there's always a right. I mean, some like you think about Nick Saban, some LSU fans, and even me at times, are, dream of what could have been
Yeah.
and are frustrated at the fact that what happened with Nick Saban happened and it didn't happen for us.
Yeah.
But it happened for our stinking SEC West rival, Alabama. Right. And so there's a little bitterness. But we also, I think, as LSU fans, need to respect Nick Saban and say, you know what, we are who we are as a football team because of Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Anytime you lose a coach to another school, there's like this, we want to one up. We want to, they're always going to measure the coaches. And what I have consistently said about Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame and the hiring of Marcus Freeman, I think truly that it will be a win-win for both schools.
Yeah.
The two things can be true at one time, right? It can be a good thing for Brian Kelly to come to LSU and also a good thing for Marcus Freeman to be hired. It can be a good thing for Brian Kelly to come to LSU and a good thing for Brian Kelly to have left Notre Dame. It can be. And for whatever reason, our fans, Notre Dame fans, think that's impossible, right? Like, Brian Kelly's awful. Marcus Freeman's amazing. Brian Kelly is amazing. Notre Dame is always overrated. And, Marcus Freeman will never do anything, blah, blah, blah. That kind of garbage. I just don't I don't see it that way. Brian Kelly, I think, needed a fresh start. I think he needed something to challenge himself. He was comfortable at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He was the winningest coach there in their history. I think they could have rolled with him for years, and he might have never won a national championship. But he picked his family up out of South Bend, Indiana, a Midwest guy, right, who's never come to the South. And he's challenging himself to come down here and win a national championship because that's what he wants to do to end his career. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take an older guy out of Notre Dame who's been there for several years. There's been great moments, but it hasn't quite got to where it needed to be. And you bring in this young coach, this up-and-coming coach who's energetic and all, like, that's good for Notre Dame. I think Brian Kelly was good for LSU in the current situation it was once Ed Orgeron got fired. So, anyways, with that being said, I think it can be a win-win for LSU and Notre Dame. I really do. I've been seeing that going around more, Zach, because Notre Dame, has made it to the semifinals. But Zach, let's be real. Notre Dame played Indiana. Who's Indiana played? Ohio State. Who'd they lose to? Ohio State. That's the only ranked team they played in the regular season.
Yeah. And they got destroyed.
0 ranked wins. 0. And then you play Georgia without their starting quarterback. Now, I'm going to give props where props is due. I think Notre Dame's a good team. I really do. And I think they could very easily beat Penn State. I think their offense is questionable. I think they got Riley Leonard threw for 90 yards against Georgia. Like, I don't think it's perfect. But they're in the they're in the semifinals, right? Give them their props.
What matters is the end result. Yeah.
That's right. So, anyways, all you fans doing all that, I feel like you can see both sides. Don't be so biased that you can't see both sides. I think it can be great on both sides. I think it is. With that being said, Zach, moving on. 2025 sneak peek for this football season. In light of this transfer portal class, Zach, what are your thoughts? I mean, expectations, I think, are going to be massive.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And kind of like you said earlier, this this roster, what it's shaped up to be, even if you were to not add a single other player from the transfer portal, I still think that this is a playoff caliber roster. The question is, will they make it? Right. So, and obviously we will do a lot more in-depth preview once we get closer to kick off the new 2025 season. But from early onset, this team looks like a team that can really compete and really challenge for a potential national championship, I believe. Reagan, I think there was a stat that was released not super long ago where it talked about the past however many national champions. I think it was like the past, 5, 6, or 7 national champions. And the thing that all of them had in common was that they had a top 10 or top 15 offense, something like that, and they had a top 40 defense. Like, they were really good. So LSU right now, obviously defensively has been the biggest issue for LSU these past couple of years. LSU improved from a team that was in the hundreds a year ago to this past year being a team that was in the mid 50s overall in defense, which is a drastic improvement. So now you think about all the guys you're getting back, the players you've added in the transfer portal, a potential star in Patrick Payton, somebody that is extremely good at defending the run on the edge, and Jack Pyburn, a freak athlete in Harold Perkins, who from all accounts sounds like he's going to be playing a lot better role that suits him a lot better next season. A absolute workhorse in Whit Weeks, who seems like he is always flying around the ball, and some really young, talented guys like Don McKinley, Devon Keys, Gabe Relaford, Ahmad Bro, Ashton Stamps, DJ Pickett. You get another young guy in Jakeem Jackson transferring in from Florida. So you're starting to see where you've had experience the last couple of years, right? You've had guys that were experienced, but you just haven't had the talent. Now you're starting to see the experience and the talent on this roster defensively.
Yeah.
And so if LSU can piece it together, especially with the personnel that they have on the defensive side of the ball this upcoming year, I truly believe that they could be one of those teams that's a top 10 offense and a top 40 defense. I truly believe that. Yeah. It's just continuing to get better and better and better and better. I told you, Reagan, that the biggest concern for me going into next year was the offensive line. And my reason for that was week 1, you go on the road to Clemson. You've got all the weapons you could imagine. I mean, LSU's going to roll out there with Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton, Nick Anderson, Barian Brown, Xavion Thomas, Hayden Durham, Harlan Berry, a true freshman 5-star, Caleb Jackson, Jawan Johnson, Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback. Your backup's a guy that's had a ton of experience this past year in Michael Van Buren at Mississippi State, transferring in. You got some guys that have some solid experience on the offensive line now from the ones that you've got in Braylon Moore, Josh Thompson, obviously DJ Tester returning, guys that got some high ceilings in Tyree Adams and Weston Davis, guys that obviously were young but got some playing experience like Paul Mubenga. Who else are you going to get potentially in the transfer portal? It looks a lot more promising now than it did, a month ago whenever I was really concerned about, okay, you have all those weapons, but what are you going to do if you can't protect Garrett, right? If you can't block, right? The biggest thing for me for LSU next year is they've got to improve the run blocking, because when you've got all those guys, you've got speedsters, you've got all these different types of backs. Caden Durham, obviously, we know he can get to the outside, home run hitter. Caleb Jackson, thumper. up the middle, which I think that's probably going to be a lot of his role. I think we'll see more of Caleb Jackson next year. Seems like he's staying as far as we know. Maybe that changes. I haven't heard anything as far as him potentially entering the transfer portal. I think a lot of people are surprised that he did it, but seems like he's staying. He could be a guy that gets a lot more reps next year. Yeah. You're not having to worry about being behind a guy in a 6-year veteran in Josh Williams. Obviously, Caden Durham was the star of the running back room this year, but we know what Frank does. Frank loves to rotate, so probably gets more reps there. I think he'd be a really good back, potentially between the tackles when you need to get 1 or 2 yards. He's that big thumper. Excited to see what Holland Barry can do. Really excited to see what Jawan Johnson can do, because I think he could be a feature back with specific packages, passing him the ball from the backfield. So, catching the ball from the backfield. So, yeah, I mean, you look at that defensively, what you've got, the building that they're doing, the talent that's there now, the experience that you're going to have, everybody that's coming back offensively. You've shored up some things on the offensive line. Everything really feels like it's trending upward. The trajectory is upward. So I fully expect LSU to be a playoff team next year. And I know that's like, wow, okay, you're going to go ahead and say that. Yes, I expect them. They should be a playoff team next year with this roster. And again, that's before we add anybody else. Like with this roster, who they have right now, they should be a 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
The schedule, we look at the schedule next year. Think about the 4 teams that you're going to have difficulty with next year. Florida's going to be I think Florida's going to take a step forward next year. You get them at home.
No doubt.
Texas A&M, obviously, you struggle with them, but you get them at home. You get to host Arkansas, who I think will be a little bit better next year. We'll see. They may just be still same old Arkansas. And then a team that is trending up right now, like you are in South Carolina, you also get at home.
Yeah.
And then you think about the teams that you go on the road, what they're losing. Think about Ole Miss, how much they're losing. They're losing Jackson Dart, who is, you could argue that he's Ole Miss statistically best quarterback in Ole Miss history. He's gone. Trey Harris is gone. They're losing a ton of guys defensively.
Gordon Watkins.
So you go to Ole Miss, but they're being purged. Now, yes, they've done a good job in the transfer portal like they always do, but that's going to be a whole brand new team. You go on the road to Oklahoma. They're struggling, right? We got to see what they'll be able to do. I mean, they lost some players as well to the transfer portal, and they're trying to figure it out as far as who's going to be our guys. I mean, we took Nick Anderson from them. Auburn obviously took their starting quarterback and Jackson Arnold.
Just about all their receivers left.
All the receivers are gone. Like they already didn't have receivers.
Thompson left. Anderson left.
Exactly.
Bauer Sharp left. What?
Exactly. So
he ain't got much left.
It's pretty crazy. Like that's a struggling team. Sorry, I had to get the O-ring back on. So that's a struggling team, and then you got to go to Bama. Well, Bama's losing Milroe. They've been purged in the portal.
Big time. 23 players.
Exactly.
23 players.
Yeah. So
they brought in 6. Zach.
Yeah. They've only brought in 6 so far, which is
they're netting negative 17 in the portal.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So you go to Bama, and then the other one is Vanderbilt. You go on the road to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt probably, on the road, you could argue that might be the scariest team you have to go on the road. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but you could argue that is a team that, as far as
continuity,
yes.
Yeah.
Next year you'll have to deal with that a little bit, but the teams you go on the road to, Bama, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, those 3 teams, it feels like those are winnable games on the road. You got to go on the road to Clemson, which Clemson's going to be good next year. They're returning Cade Klubnik. That you could argue that might be your toughest game on the road, first game of the season against Clemson. You could argue that might be your toughest game of the season.
Game one. God.
We gotta love it. So, but yeah, my expectation, my sneak peek for next year is I think LSU's offense is going to be phenomenal. I really do. I mean, you can't tell me that you're going to have all of those weapons. Like Reagan, we've got like 5 wide receivers that could be number one, but like could be number ones.
Yeah.
At many places in the country. Nick Anderson, he could be a number one at several different places in the country. Aaron Anderson, he could be a number one at several different places in the country. Chris Hilton, he could be a number one at several different places in the country. Barian Brown, he could be a number one at several different places in the country. Right? Xavion Thomas, I know he's probably near the end, near the bottom of that
any group of 5 team. Any group of 5 team, he's number one.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, you're absolutely stacked at receiver. Absolutely stacked. If do you potentially land another tight end? Maybe you land Donovan Green, and then you're looking at Tradez Green, Bauer Sharp, Donovan Green at tight end. I mean, holy cow! Like, then you're stacked tight end.
I mean, honestly, if they add another tight end, I think Tradez stays where he's at, and Tradez is a problem.
Yeah, he is.
He's a problem,
and he's a red zone. He's a menace in the red zone. He's going to be a menace in the red zone. He's going to be a menace in short yardage. We saw that against Baylor. You have a quarterback who is second only to Joe Burrow in a single season passing. Like, we dogged Garrett Nussmeier so much when he went through that really tough 3-game stretch where he struggled with turnovers, but yet he's second only to Joe Burrow statistically in passing for a single season. So you got a veteran quarterback who is very smart, high football IQ, and not only has he got a high football IQ, but I mean he's a good player. He's a good player. You can't really debate that. I mean,
you're thinking Heisman conversation next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he opened up as the second odds-on favorite to win the Heisman next year on the very early odds. So, you got a quarterback that you trust. At least I do, Reagan. I know there's probably some LSU fans out there that are just stupid, but I trust them. And then you've got 3 running backs. You've really got 5 running backs, but you got 3 running backs that can obviously do a lot of damage as well. So I think the offense is going to be phenomenal. I think the offense easily could be a top 20 team in college football as far as offensively. What can your defense do? Can your defense improve on what they did this past year? I 100% believe it. I mean, Reagan, you think about Patrick Payton coming off the edge, and Jamari Butler or Jack Pyburn on the other side. You've got Jacoby and Guillory in the middle. We'll see who fills that other role. Dom McKinley.
Mitchell.
You got plenty of options. And then you think about looking past that line, and you got to stare at Devon Keys, Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins. Like, that's scary. That's scary. And then you've got some guys, in the secondary. Ashton Tamp's gonna be a 3rd-year player. I think he'll definitely take a step forward next year. You've obviously got the transfer, Jakeem Jackson, that's got a ton of experience. You've got a 5-star, kind of reminds us of Derek Stingley and DJ Pickett. So, I mean, there's talent there. There's very noticeable talent there.
Mansour Delane.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Mansour, I mean,
number 2 DB in the portal.
Yeah. I mean, you could have DJ Pickett and Ashton Stamps as backups next year.
Yeah.
Right, with like Mansour Delane and Jackson starting at the boundary corners.
And what it sounds like, Zach, is they're looking at guys like Tamarcus Cooley, and I can't remember the other one, but they're looking at guys like true nickel. And Blake Baker likes to run the 4-2-5.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's getting what he wants so he can do that. I like it.
LSU definitely. I mean, LSU fans will not be wrong to go into next season with high expectation.
No, not at all.
LSU fans should go into next season with high expectations. I think next year you go into the season thinking this is
Playoff.
playoff contender,
Yeah.
floor 10-2, ceiling undefeated. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to. This past year we said ceiling, 10-2, floor 8-4, and you hit the floor, right?
Yeah.
So, LSU definitely has some improving to do, mainly on the defensive side of the ball. And on the offensive side of the ball, definitely in run blocking. Man, if you can shore up those two things, you're going to be a very, very dangerous team next year.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. It's going to be really promising, and we'll keep you updated on potential things to come. And hey, Zach, speaking of Trades Green, kind of excited maybe to see what Trades can do on the court.
Yeah,
Here in the
he
near
can play
future.
now. We need some depth.
I want to see if Trades can come in and do something on the court. I think that'd be really cool. And he is. I think that's the plan. That's the plan for him to get over there soon. I don't know what the transition is going to be like, but I know it was very clear that when the season ended, he would make that transition to basketball. So, going to be really cool to see that. So, with that being said, we need to hit a quick break, and we'll come back and we will discuss basketball, all hoops, right after this.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Right back at it here in the Tigers Avenue show to wrap things up. Final segment here with the basketball Tigers men's and women's recap. Zach, I'll kind of hit on the men's open conference play with Vanderbilt, a very tough opponent. Only one loss on the season to a good Drake team, and Vanderbilt's a very solid team. I mean, man, this coach has come in from James Madison, brought in a bunch of really good transfers. I didn't know stinking AJ Haggard transferred from Michigan State to Vanderbilt. That's pretty nice for them. A 4-year starter under Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans. Pretty good transfer. And he was pretty good. Look, guys, they lose 80-72. Here's the reality of this conference play. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really stinking tough. You got to win your home games. You dropped your first one. But you got to fight like a dog to win those home games and maybe steal a couple on the road. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to get to 500 in this league.
Yeah.
This league is the best I've ever seen, the SEC. It's really, really stinking good. Vanderbilt's not even ranked, guys. And they're really, really good. They'll be competitive all year.
Yeah.
Just to kind of name a couple things that really was the difference in this game. Number one, without Jalen Reed, you have height, but you don't have a certain body build right now underneath that can kind of bang in the paint with some big guys. You have Damian Collins, who is 6'10", and Robert Miller, who's 6'10", but both of them are kind of lanky and athletic. They're not stiff, muscular 6'10" like Jalen Reed was. And there was times, man, when that was very painfully obvious
They're getting bodied.
When old 22, I can't remember his last name. When old
Gary.
boy, yes, when he posted up, it was bully ball.
Yeah.
I mean,
Back you down and easy layup.
him and McLaughlin were backing folks down.
Mhm.
It was obvious that you were lacking that Jalen Reed type of player. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot in this league because there's a lot of guys. There's guys way better than what Vanderbilt had down in the paint.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to play this guy named Johnny Broom at Auburn. And Johnny Broom can step out and drain it from the three as well. It's going to be tough. It really is, y'all. It stinks because you feel like you have a really talented team, a team that in any other year of Matt McMahon's tenure probably could have made it in the tournament at like a 9, a 10 seed with like 21 wins on the season, maybe 500 and a little bit above 500 in SEC conference play. It's going to be real tough in this SEC.
It feels like a stretch now. It feels like it's going to be.
It feels like a stretch to get to 500, and that's just a tough reality. And you see it in the stats, Zach. They out-rebounded you by 10, 37, 27. And another problem that the Tigers just continue to have, Zach, is turnovers. They seem to pile on. When they start, they stack up. You had 15 turnovers to their 9. They doubled you in points off turnovers. That's the difference in the game.
Yeah.
It was an 8-point game. They had 9 points on you off of turnovers. That's the game. I mean,
don't turn the ball.
What was that? Don't turn
they had
the ball
11. They had 11 in the first half. Did a lot better the second half, but they had 11 in the first half, which built a pretty good gap for Vanderbilt. LSU made it close, kind of near the end of the first half, but
you pulled it close, but they kept you at arm's length in the second half. And then there were a couple calls late in the game that you didn't like.
There was some rough calls,
like the turnover. Well, you felt like you had the steal with Jordan Sears. He turns over, says timeout. They say jump ball. I didn't like the call. I was frustrated at the call in the moment. I think in reality, it really didn't matter. You could have done a lot more things to change the outcome of this game than that one particular moment.
Yeah. The refs didn't beat you. Your lack of physicality down low and turning
that one call didn't beat you.
Yeah.
Or a couple calls. I think there was a couple calls we didn't like, but like you said, they didn't beat you. That did not beat you. You have 6 more turnovers than them. They doubled you in points off turnovers. They out-rebounded you by 10. I mean, it just that's the writing on the wall right there.
Yeah.
The only thing you did a little bit better than them was shooting. I mean, you had a little bit better shooting percentage than them, but it is what it is. So we'll see. You got Missouri on the road next tomorrow night.
Winnable game. You could steal one on the road.
It is a winnable game. You need to steal this one in Como. You need to get this one back. For every one you lose, you need to win one. So you need to go get this one in Como. It's not going to be easy. You're going to play a former Tiger in Josh Gray in his 18th year in college basketball.
The dude's still playing basketball?
He's playing for Missouri, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Josh Gray.
That is insane.
Yes.
I felt like the dude was playing when I was in high school.
Yeah. Josh Gray playing basketball for the Missouri Tigers. You'll see him tomorrow night. You will see him tomorrow night.
Wow.
But it's a tough league. It is. You got a lot of teams that are really stinking good. We're going to cheer for them. I ain't going to give up on them. I'm going to keep cheering for them, keep watching them. I hope you do the same. But, Zach, tell us about the Lady Tigers. They're 17-0. It's a lot more fun to talk about.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that the polls continue to belittle them with the 6th ranking. I kind of get it a little bit with the strength of schedule, but, man, I mean, you just can't knock the performance that this team has had so far, throughout the first half of the season, the regular season. They pretty much cruise through non-conference. They had a couple games against some good opponents, not like you played, Joe Schmo real close, but against some good opponents where they were to pull a couple tight ones off. And then, you open conference play and absolutely dominated Arkansas. I mean, at one point, I think they were winning by 50. Took all the starters out and put in all the subs, and Arkansas made it a little bit closer there at the end. This game against Auburn, I mean, it was really only close there in the first quarter there, and then at kind of late at the end as Auburn made a little bit of a surge. LSU let off the gas because they had a substantial lead, and they kind of did a similar thing, put in some of the subs, and that's why you saw Auburn kind of bring it closer to a 10-point game than what it really was. Anissa Morrow was the hero of this game. She had another double-double, 21 points, 14 rebounds. She continues to bolster her very impressive career of double-doubles. She's, I think, in the top 5 of all-time double-double leaders. So she's been extremely, we think about, how awesome Angel was in her 70-something straight double-double games. But Anissa Morrow is in the top 5 all time for double doubles in women's college basketball, which is really good. This team just got really good depth, Reagan. Last year, Poa starts for you at the point, but then Kaylin Gilbert comes in and she is your spark. She had 17 off the bench. She was only behind Anissa Morrow in scoring. So, she is just extremely impressive. She continues to be one of my favorite players, to be honest with you. Man, she's just so good at creating space. She's very good at hitting shots from all around the arc, inside the arc. She knows how to get open. She knows how to get space. And when she does, she hits it. And she's also really good at driving the paint and getting bodied and putting up a really difficult shot off the glass that a lot of times goes in. So she has been very, very impressive. Flage, she does what she does. Michaela Williams, we know she is consistent. She's been more consistent. Like last year, it'd be like, okay, she'd have like a 30-point game and then she would be nowhere. This year, there's a little bit more consistency. Like she's kind of, more of a scoring in the double figures every game, but then she'll have that game where she just goes off, right? Yep. So a little bit more consistency there from Michaela Williams this year, which is very good. I have a lot more confidence in this team. It sounds crazy because like last year you had Haley Van Lith and you had Angel Reese, but I feel like I have more confidence in the team just because of the depth. Like they've got the depth. They've got a crap ton of guards that are really good. You've got some young guards that can score. I know Jada Richard. She's a true freshman, but I mean, I don't know if she didn't really do a whole lot in this game, but you think about the potential, career that she could have moving forward. And Miracle Shepherd, she's only a sophomore, but those two guards coming off the bench, it feels like there's not a whole lot of drop off. I mean, and then obviously Kaylin Gilbert coming off the bench, it's just like that's basically your sixth starter pretty much. Last year Poe comes, starts and she does a really good job of running the offense, but Kaylin Gilbert's that offensive spark that you need from a guard off the bench. So LSU so far looks really impressive, dominated really the first 2 games of SEC play, but you've got a massive one coming up this Thursday. You travel to Tennessee, and Tennessee's good. They only have 1 loss on the season. You're going to be in their stadium Thursday night, 5:30 p.m.
Top matchup, baby.
It's a big game. This is a game that LSU needs to get. I think this is a game where if LSU wins this game, it'll kind of solidify some things for a lot of the national voters, and you might finally see LSU move up in the polls if they're able to get a win over Tennessee on the road this upcoming Thursday. So big games coming up for both the men's and the women's. Men's, they need to strike back and steal one. Women's need to make a statement on the road this Thursday.
No doubt. All right, guys. Hey, Carl Dunn came in here. Last thing here.
I know our chat was pretty quiet tonight. We plenty
Both
of
teams-
viewers, but our chat was really quiet tonight. So
Both
a lot of
teams
our viewers are on X, so they need to come on over to
That's
YouTube
right.
or Facebook
We
and
can see your
comment.
comments. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Both teams
both-
did cut out turnovers. 17 yesterday. Can't do that against Tennessee.
Yeah,
Ain't
17
wrong.
turnovers
Ain't wrong.
for the Lady Tigers. That they have struggled with it. Both teams have really struggled with that. Is the turnovers.
Yeah.
You just can't SEC play. You're going to get beat. There's a lot
You
of really
will.
good teams, and the SEC as far as the women's side, the SEC is better this year. Like the lower teams, they're performing better this year.
You added a good Oklahoma team.
Yep.
I mean, Oklahoma, I think,
And
is ranked
Texas.
10.
Yeah, I mean, and Oklahoma and Texas went head to head this past Sunday night, and Texas was able to edge out Oklahoma. But those were two teams that looked really impressive.
Okay.
LSU's got to go to Texas. They got to host Oklahoma. So
Ain't no break.
Ain't no break. Ain't no breaks. I mean, Vanderbilt. You're hosting Vanderbilt after Tennessee, but Vanderbilt's a pretty good team. They're 14-2. So and then you got to go. Not long after that, you go on the road to South Carolina. So, it's good. Yeah, it's going to be a bumpy ride, but hopefully the later Tigers will fare a little bit better than what we believe our men's team will do.
We do. Appreciate all you guys being in here and watching. Great show, man. So excited about this transfer portal class and maybe what's to come. Keep pulling for your Tigers on the court. Couple good games this week, Tuesday, Thursday night. Watch them, cheer them on, hope for the best. We'll see you next time here in the Tigers Avenue Show. 5 Star here, take us out. Peace.